Hello, Canucks fans, and welcome back to another episode of Canucks Conversation, which is brought to you by Bet365. Open an account with Bet365 today and bet on a huge range of markets. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Be sure to use code NATION when you sign up for an account. My name is Dave Pedrelli. That is Harmon Dial. It is Canucks Conversation, a Monday edition of Canucks Conversation. We've got some new lights in the studio. I've asked our pal Matt Sakaris at the top of Sakaris and Price. They say from the Nation Network studio, built by Arbor Lee and David Quadrelli. I've put in the request to throw my name in there because you got the shelves, which we've talked about a lot on this show, but now lights as well. I built the lights. I didn't build the lights, but yeah, I built the wood. I cut some wood.
Mount them.
I cut some wood and I burned the wood and then I mounted the lights into the wood and then Jacob hung them because I couldn't reach.
That's basically the same thing as building an
right.
entire studio and hotel.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Harmon. I appreciate that. I appreciate the kind words on this Monday morning. Kind words about a lot of people are going to be said on this show, including Jeff Paterson, who's going to join us in about 10, 15 minutes time. But Harmon, a pretty busy day for us today on Canucks Conversation. We're going to talk about the Canucks win over the Ottawa Senators. But first, I wanted to get to this news of the day. Most of this courtesy of our pal Ian McIntyre. Some stuff also courtesy of our other pal, Dan Murphy. But IMAC was reporting that Brock Boeser's a full participant in practice. Boeser spoke after practice, said that if he's symptom-free tomorrow morning, like he wakes up and he feels fine, he'll play Tuesday night versus the Boston Bruins.
Yeah, really, really good news, especially after such a gutsy win over Ottawa. To have the excitement of Brock back in the lineup, that's just going to give an extra juice of motivation to a group that deserves it, right? It was a really gutsy win over Ottawa, not just one of those, we luckily squeaked past the Senators, but for the most part, we were on our heels the entire time and defending and kind of lucky to get away with that one. They genuinely played well, controlled most of the game. And so to have a performance like that after how disappointing their homestand was, and now to get reinforcements on the way, your top goal scorer, that's good vibes are starting to mount.
Yeah. I think the 4-3 scoreline of that game don't tell the whole story. I want to say, it wasn't close. Canucks stomped them, but like the Canucks were in control for most of that game. We'll talk about the game a little bit more. The only time they faltered was when Soucy and Myers started Soucy and Myersing at the same time, right at the end of the game. Okay. Yeah, lots of people in the chat already talking about David Jiricek. There's so much to get to. We're going to save the Jiricek stuff for anyone else. But continuing on with these notes. So Boeser skated with Teddy Blueger and Denton Heinen. Not a super fun line, but a line that you think might be able to chip in on offense if teams are focusing on the Pettersson line, which was great. We're going to talk about them a lot. And of course, the line with Pius Suter, Dakota Joshua, and Connor Garland. You're hoping that third line with Boeser on it. Who would have thought that Boeser would lose his spot in the top six the way he was playing? But Kiefer Sherwood, we're going to talk about him a lot. It looks like tomorrow Boeser's going to be skating on that third line with Teddy Blueger and Danton Heinen. I hate to say like that, but what else was there from skate? Thatcher Demko took part in a full practice. That one was from Dan Murphy, I think through Rick Dollywall. I think Dollywall said the great Dan Murphy just texted me. But anyways, Demko, again, we know he's nearing a return. Good news, good vibes, good news, good vibes early on today's show.
Yeah, and again, the schedule for the rest of the road trip is pretty light, so an opportunity for them to sort of regain the momentum that they lost on that homestand, and also get to a point where when you have a stretch of hockey where you're missing a lot of key players, if you're able to band together as a group, overcome that adversity, it's the sort of thing that just brings a team closer together, builds some resolve, also builds some confidence to know that, okay, our star players are going to have to be on most nights our best players if the Canucks are going to win. But for the rest of the roster to know that, hey, we're valuable contributors as well. And when we have an injury or this guy's out of lineup for whatever reason, that there is that level of resilience to battle through, because ultimately when you get closer to the end of the regular season, when you get to playoff time, you're going to get punched in the face, metaphorically. Yep. You're going to have things that go against you. The sort of like Quinn Hughes hit, which I'm sure we'll talk about, 5 in a game. Like, you're going to get breaks like that go against you in the playoffs. And it's moments like that, which really test a team's character. And I think this is that win over Ottawa was a resounding check mark as far as passing that character test.
Okay, let's start on that game against Ottawa with the Hughes hit on Josh Norris. His college roommate, his good buddy, Josh Norris. Quinn Hughes gives him a light tap into the lower back. Happens 100 times a game, but Norris apologized to Hughes after the game. Hughes apologized to Norris after the game. It was just an unlucky play. It happens 100 times a game, but it's an unlucky play because Norris is trying to change direction at the same time, so he kind of toe picks a bit, and then he goes face first into the boards. My understanding of the rule is that Hughes is out of the game because the hit, not just because it caused an injury, but because it caused a cut. If a player's cut as a result of the hit, you're immediately out of the game.
Well, the NHL's definition of a quote-unquote injury often is blood.
Yes.
Like, whether you agree with it or not, it's the same thing that they use with the high sticking. I've always wondered, there are some whacks that are really hard, but for some reason don't draw blood. And they're 2 minutes, and yet some of them just like catches the wrong spot.
Guys are like furiously trying to feel for blood.
It's just like that's the definition of a quote unquote injury. It's a bit ticky tacky. I think we can all agree that just looking at the hit, because yes, the technicality of the rules, you can't blame the refs for calling it that way.
Totally.
But I agreed with Ray Ferraro's take.
Yes, was just about to say
that there should be something in between the minor penalty and the 5+ a game option, because as soon as it was 5 minutes, like, it also had to be a game misconduct, which, look, if you wanted to go as far as to say, oh, I saw some Sens fans, oh, look at his, like, he did have a legit injury to his face. I saw some Sens fans posting post-game interviews of Norris where his lip was like quite swollen. Fair enough, but it should never have been a game misconduct. Just like looking at how that hit was delivered. And also, I don't know if you saw, this is another hit that Ferraro tweeted out, the Jamie Benn
Brandon Carlo,
and it's just like Ben's coming in full steamroll, hit from behind, Carlo smashes into the boards, and that ended up being a 2-minute minor penalty.
Buddy, not to mention Tim Stützle.
I know.
Losing his mind at the end of the game and not even looking at the puck and going after Nils Hoglander. That is the most little bleep.
Yeah, how did the
Canucks
end up on
penalty.
the PK? That's why I will not blame the Canucks at all for, they allowed 2 goals at the end and it ended up being kind of close, because they should have never ended up on that PK.
No, absolutely not. And like, that's the thing. People in the Canucks Army comment section were saying correctly, I think, they were like, was this the worst officiated game of the season? And we're not going to sit here and even break that down, because again, the Canucks won. It's not a big story. It's the NHL. There's a lot of
poorly officiated games.
But that one was just like the Stützle hit had way more intent behind it. Could have led to way more of a serious injury than what Hughes did to his buddy Josh Norris. Like, that's one. And someone in the chat, where was it? Dr. Haas, I think. No, it wasn't him. He's got good comments all the time. But Rajcraft in the chat, also a regular listener of the show, he said, why are penalties and misconduct based on injuries? Shouldn't it be based on intent? And yeah, like, Tim Stützle, what was his intent when he rammed Nils Hoglander into the ice and then got his lunch fed to him by Hoglander after that, we should add. But, like, what was his intent there compared to what Hughes was intending to do? I don't know. There needs to be something in between. That's my take on it. It's the same as what you just said. Yeah. Same as what Ray just said. There needs to be something in between. Because, like, it's hockey night in Canada. There's Sens fans in the building that, they want the Sens to win. That's not going to happen ever. They want to see Quinn Hughes. They want to see the reigning Norris winner play hockey games. And they got robbed of that because of this silly rule.
For sure. And that entire third period, just to transition it, because I think we all more or less sort of agree on the extent of that hit and how, whether it's the rule or the way that it was called, that it should have never been 5 in a game for that type of hit. But that entire third period, just seeing the Sens absolutely lose their minds and just stop playing hockey and just chase hits around. And
their captain doing it. Like, not Zach McEwen, not Nick Cousins, who I found out was on their team.
He took some whacks too, though.
Well, he's a little, didn't BX call him a rat on national television? Okay, there you go. I'll use the word rat. But their captain. Can we talk about this? Can I talk about this? Brady Tkachuk. Yeah. There are a lot of words that you could use to describe Brady Tkachuk. We were making some comparisons to the beloved children's cartoon Caillou, but First ballot crybaby is what I came up with as my way to just sum up Brady Tkachuk, because again, it's fine to have a guy with that kind of emotion, that kind of passion, all that sort of stuff. You want that on your team. You don't want that guy to be your captain. Like you don't. And again, I was trying to figure out who are the worst captains in the NHL, and it's hard to pick who are the worst captains. There's some bad ones. Maybe the one that's on the trade market right now might be among the worst, but in New York, they still like him. The players in that room still like Jacob Trouba. We'll get to that in a sec. Brady Tkachuk, I just can't help but think like this guy is so annoying, and not in a, oh my gosh, he's so tough to play against. He's so annoying to play against. It's just like, get him off my screen. Like, he's annoying to watch because he wasn't even trying to play hockey at the end. He was literally like that delayed penalty where he takes the penalty, which is genius. Yeah, your team's still in the game. Put them down on a 5-on-3. I feel so bad for Travis Green. You went from Henrik Sedin as your captain to Bo Horvat to this child who's goes completely unchecked because there's no one there to check him. You've got Claude Giroux sitting there with an A on his chest, and this kid has the C. It's embarrassing. Honestly, I don't know how Sens fans feel about him. Somehow Sens fans didn't get my mentions when I tweeted out that he was a horrible captain, but I don't know how they feel about him. But if I were like, and I would say this if I was covering the Senators, if the Canucks had a captain that acted like this, I would say the same ththing. Like, I don't like this. I don't think it, like, okay, here's the thing, because I saw this too. People that were criticizing Tkachuk, you'd get the answer of, oh, well, you never played high-level sports. We've all played, and no matter what level of sports you've played. But for those of us that have played a little bit in the higher level, we've all played with someone that acts like this or has this kind of passion, this fire, whatever you want to call it. You can tolerate them in bunches. But if someone's like this all the time, you can't. That's not a leader. That's just not a leader.
Well, that's the key distinction, right? Is it's one thing if it happens once in a while that you boil over in frustration, you take yourself out of the game, you're taking undisciplined penalties, you're not focusing on actually scoring and getting your team back into the game, but all these extracurricular activities. Once in a while it happens, that's fine. And guys will respond to that. In the right moment, it can legitimately fire your team up if it's like, oh, wow, look at our leader, look at our captain. He's really fired up. This is like unacceptable. The problem is it happens almost every time the Sens are losing and they have some adversity go against them. And that sets the tone, right?
Yeah.
Because when Brady Tkachuk is like that, well, then is it no wonder that Tim Stützle is running around chasing these dangerous plays as well?
And with what we've seen from Stützle, let's just say it's a miracle he didn't try and stay on the ice for 10 minutes, get a stretcher out, and then be back on the ensuing power play. It's a miracle that didn't happen. Potentially the most unlikable team in the NHL. I'll put that out there.
They just need to grow up. It's like a level of maturity that they don't have. They have so much talent at the top of their lineup, but they're a fragile group. They're an insecure group. And that really showed. It's like they're carrying the baggage of previous seasons and years of failure. And I legitimately feel for Travis Green in this spot where you got a new coach, you got a new GM, you've got a new ownership group. But because these core group of players haven't yet figured out how to win, it's just years of frustration piling up. And they're still young. So they're this immature group that just hasn't figured it out.
They've got the definition of like a younger sibling, little brother energy as their captain. So it trickles down. Someone in the chat said something about being a little brother. I'm a little brother, so I'm just going to throw that out there. But anyways, someone said where'd it go? Can't find it. But this one from Calcio Storico, he said an organization worth anything would strip him of the captaincy after that game. It was embarrassing. And literally, the Sens almost came back once the captain got out of their way. And don't give me this, oh, he fired them up. No, he left the game, and then they were able to start focusing on actually playing hockey because they didn't have some child running around trying to take people's heads off for no reason. Like, it's just, and then he fights Dakota. I don't know. We spent too much time talking about Brady Tkachuk. Is J-Pat here yet?
He is.
Awesome. Let's get to Jeff Paterson, who's brought to you by our friends over at Greta, a great spot for all games, home and away. We were there for the first Canucks Army viewing party, and we'll be there for the rest of them throughout the season, so don't miss out. but even if we're not there, you certainly should be. Just minutes from the arena, come by before and after the game, or whatever event you're downtown for. With arcade games, weekly drink specials, and the recently updated street food menu, Greta Bar YVR is the place to be. 50 West Cordova Street is the address. Let the games begin. All right. Cody Steverson in the chat. Quad's feelings about the Sens little brother energy radiates little brother energy. Jeff, you've spent a lot of time with me. Do I have little brother energy like Brady Tkachuk?
Yeah, 1,000%. I speak from experience here because I've got older brothers myself. So I probably convey a little brother energy myself on occasion. I'd like to think I've kind of outgrown it a little bit. I just realized I'm wearing my Canucks Army t-shirt today. So dressed for the occasion here. And let me just say this about Brady Tkachuk, because if Canuck fans really hadn't paid an awful... I think people have a general sense of who he is and what he is as a player. He also scored his 10th goal of the season on the power play against the Canucks. There is an incredible hockey player in there somewhere. But this was his follow-up performance to the game against Vegas on Thursday night, where he had 7 shots and 6 hits, and you're thinking, my goodness, he's doing everything. But he was also on the ice for all 3 of Vegas's goals in a 3-2 loss. And so, you're right, the puck is secondary way too often when he's on the ice. And I don't want to go far down the road here, but the Canucks will see the Sens again on December 21st, the Saturday before Christmas. It'll be Travis Green's return. I don't know if Zach McEwen will be there because he got sent down today, but I would imagine Brady will be front and center and people can see for themselves. And it wouldn't surprise me if he gets all wrapped up and fired up again. There's a level of intensity and then there's way over the top. And yeah, that sequence there, that had to be the least predictable penalty in the National Hockey League. When they were already down a man, the delayed penalty, you just knew, you could see it. He tried 10 different things to take a penalty. And then eventually, I love the fight because Dakota Joshua, talking about big brother and little brother energy, Dakota Joshua was like, yeah, whatever, just swing away here. I'm not really going to engage you. You're going to get tossed out of this hockey game and we're all going to be better for it. So, yeah, you kind of laugh at it, but my goodness, if you had to deal with that on a daily basis, watching or covering that hockey club, I would imagine it'd get pretty frustrating pretty quickly.
Something that wasn't frustrating, Filip Hronek rising to the occasion with Quinn Hughes going down early in the game. Jeff, just your thoughts on the Hughes hit and then Hronek's play after that. I
don't want to talk too much about the hit because you're going to scream at me. You and I were going back and forth online on that one. You seem to think Josh Norris should have been thrown out of the hockey game for acting and absorbing a head shot and all that. It's a penalty all day, every day. Gets him in the numbers. You can call it a little shove, whatever. It's a dangerous play 2 feet from the boards. And it's not Quinn Hughes. That's not who Quinn Hughes is as a player. Certainly isn't ever going to rise to supplemental discipline. It's one and done and enough punishment to have your captain and your best player thrown out for 2.5 periods of a hockey game. But it was a penalty. But I do agree with you guys that there should be some discretion here and some way, even if it rises to the level of a major penalty, keep the captain in the game. The people in Ottawa were cheated of seeing the Norris Trophy winner. There's a ton of Canuck fans there. They want to see Quinn Hughes play and do his thing, but it happened. We're not going to relitigate it. And yeah, credit to the rest of the group, but particularly the 5 defensemen that stayed in the game and played. And Phil Hronek plays his season high at 27.5 minutes, was on the ice for all 4 of the Canuck goals, was on the ice for the Tkachuk power play goal, but that was it defensively. I thought he was physical. I thought he sort of commanded the puck in situations. I loved his work on that penalty kill. Once Hughes got thrown out, he killed 3 minutes and 5 seconds of the major penalty. That's doing some heavy lifting, sets the tone for the remainder of the game, and it kind of had that feel of all right, we can do this. We're all going to pull on the rope. I'm going to be right up there at the front leading the tug of war. And yeah, too often Hronek sort of plays in the shadow of Quinn Hughes, but man, he stepped outside of the shadows, and I thought he was terrific. He was the second star of the hockey game on rink wide on Saturday night.
Up front, the Elias Pettersson line was dominant again. What stands out to you about why they've been clicking so well together lately?
Well, I think it stands out that you're calling them the Pettersson line. I'm going to call them the Sherwood line. Credit where it's due here. Yeah, on paper, it doesn't necessarily look like it should work the way that it is, but I was glad Jake Debrusk had a breakout night. Without Boeser and Miller, they needed somebody to step up, and kind of tired about talking about the fact that, it's just been too quiet around him overall, but nice to see him stand his ground on the power play goal, nifty little deflection there, and then love the work that Sherwood did on his second goal to spin out of the check in the neutral zone, create some separation, and then slide the puck over to Debrusk, who showed the nice hands that we saw in Los Angeles when he had the time and the space and the poise to outweight the goaltender and score. That was his most recent goal, then didn't score on the homestand. So, yeah, I mean, I think it does. I mean, I was joking about the line name, but it starts with Pettersson. Like, he's starting to be more of the playmaker that we've seen him develop into over his time in the National Hockey League, was scoring goals as he kind of came out of his funk. But even like the bank job against Chicago, that's a good bounce, right? But like that's not him doing a ton of heavy lifting there. He got a fortunate bounce, but the one-timer against Nashville. But he was scoring goals. The last couple of games, like that Ranger game, the play that he makes cutting through the neutral zone to set up Sherwood, now we're starting to see him attacking off the rush. Teams have to pay attention to him. And that, to me, all these questions about is he back, I think he's back when other teams are truly locking into Elias Pettersson. And when he's got time and space, can find the guys around him. If he's going to be the focus of the defenses, that's good news for the Canucks because he's skilled enough and he's starting to feel it now that, he can use those opportunities to get the puck into the hands of his teammates. And yeah, I mean, it's been fun to watch. And what I like about Sherwood is that, he hasn't abandoned what's made him successful. He's just kind of elevated the scoring side of his game that we've seen at other levels. But another 10-hit night the other night, like incredible stuff. Like it's wild that, I guess I thought at some point he might fall into this trap of I'm the NHL hit leader. I got to keep this up somehow. I'm going to chase hits all over the ice and get away from doing what I do that's made me successful. And he's just incorporated some offense, the smarts. I love sort of how aggressive he is, not even with the contact in terms of the hits, but just reading the plays, understanding when the hit is there, and he's taking it. And so, you're getting it looks like they're going to get Brock Boeser back in Boston, but like, why would you touch that line in the here and now? I know Tocchet was talking after practice today about puzzles. He has used that one an awful lot, and he's got to find where to put Brock Boeser in the short term because he doesn't want to touch that line that's going so good for him right now. And I think I'd be in the same boat if I was him.
Okay, so let's talk about it. Bluger and Heinen are Brock Boeser's line mates, it looks like, if he's good to go against Boston. That's how they skated at practice today. First of all, we wouldn't have never thought that Kiefer Sherwood would be taking Brock Boeser's spot in the top six, but here we are. Kiefer Sherwood looks like he's going to stay on that line, and like you said, Jeff, why would you break it up? But let's talk about this third line, this potential third line with Teddy Bluger, Denton Heinen, Brock Boeser. I look at it and say, like, on the road, that's just something else that teams have to deal with, and you would think that the Canucks would be able to win those minutes with that line on the ice and potentially chip in on some offense.
Yeah, I mean, imagine the luxury of having a 40-goal scorer on your third line. Now, is Kiefer Sherwood the lock solid answer to top six role the rest of the way? If he keeps playing like this, maybe. But I think ultimately when he finds his level, they may continue to move him around. I mean, that's the way Rick Tocchet coaches. Like, he tries to ride the hot hand. He talks about duos. He talks about puzzle pieces. Obviously the absence of JT Miller is massive, and that's tough for any coach to try to figure out how best to attack that. But yeah, you've got a line that's going. You want to keep Garland and Joshua together, and I still think there's plenty of room for Dakota Joshua. This isn't a knock on him, fully understanding why it's taken him a while to get back up to speed, but I don't think we've seen anything close to last year's Dakota Joshua yet. So that's sort of encouraging still. And if you have to start Brock Boeser and kind of ease him back in, so be it. I don't think he's going to be a third-line guy for long. He's going to get top unit power play. I just hope that he's missed 7 games, and I hope that he hasn't lost his scoring touch in any way because he had 6 goals in the 12 that he had played. He was on that 40-goal pace, and we've seen lots of guys and how they respond to a serious head injury. He looked good. He looks happy. I saw the post-practice comments. Like, he seems like he's in a pretty good space. He sounds excited to get back in there, as you'd expect. But once you start playing for keeps and you can't avoid contact, let's see how he reacts. But I do hope that wherever they slot him in the lineup, I hope that he looks like the Brock Boeser before the head injury, because he was off to a terrific start, and he means so much to this group, especially in the absence of a guy like JT Miller right now.
Nils Hoglander played just 8:37 against the Sens on Saturday night. Do you think he could maybe even end up being the healthy scratch if Boeser returns to the lineup? And just big picture, how concerned are you with where Hoglander is at as far as the level of trust that the coaching staff seems to not have in him right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think he could be a healthy scratch. And I say that just because that always seems to be how it ends up for him. Even in the playoffs last year, after a 24-goal season, he came right out of the lineup on a couple of occasions. It would speak volumes, I think, if Max Sasson stays in and Archie Bain stays in, and you're sitting a guy who was a 24-goal scorer a year ago, but he doesn't seem to be that player in the here and now. I'm not saying that he can't get back to being that guy, but 15 games without a goal, 9 without a point now, 8 shots on goal over those 9 games. Like, there's just zero impact of any kind from Nils Hoglander, and he plays 8.5 minutes the other night. Archie Bains played 11. Like 2.5 minutes more for Archie Bains. And there are a lot of people that say, hey, what exactly does Bains bring to the mix here? We know what Hoglander's supposed to bring, and Hoglander started the game in the third line capacity, right? Like, it wasn't like he was chained to the fourth line and not getting much of an opportunity, but he sort of played his way down there now. Extenuating circumstances. He takes the penalty earlier in the hockey game that the Sens score on, and then he gets the double minder in the Stutzla thing that you guys talked about, which did seem mind-boggling. So there were 6 minutes of penalties, or he took 6 minutes of penalties. They didn't spend the whole 2 minutes in the first one in the penalty box. And I don't think Rick Tocchet would have a huge issue with the way that he stuck up and defended himself after the Stutzla hit. Like, I think Tocchet wants to see that sort of energy from Hoglander and be feisty in that way, but ultimately it's a bottom line business, and we know that the trust between this coach and this player, it wanes, and right now it really kind of feels like it's at or near an all-time low. Now, he hasn't come out of the lineup entirely, but 8.5 minutes of ice time, you do wonder where it goes next. So I'm going to be curious here. Something tells me that he will stay in and play against Boston, but it also feels like the clock is ticking here towards some sort of punitive measure, and that generally would be a healthy scratch at this level. So it's unfortunate, because I think there is a much better player there than he has shown here in the short term, but it's pro sports, and like, the NHL's not going to wait for you. Like, you've got to find your game here. And he had success lower in the lineup around this time last year and earned his way, earned a promotion to play in the top 6. And it just doesn't look like that player right now. He's basically, I always refer to it as just wearing the uniform. Like, that's basically, what does Nils Hoglander do at the end of the night? Well, he wore the uniform, but there isn't a whole lot much more to his game, and I do want to see that change.
Like Louis Eriksson, for another number 21.
Well, let's not
Don't disrespect Hoglander like that.
How many goals did he score, Harm? Our running joke, Jeff, is every time Nils Hoglander is brought up, Harmon goes, this guy scored 24 goals, or he scored 24 goals. He's a 24-goal scorer. So 24-goal scorer, Nils Hoglander. We will see what happens.
I feel like you've brought me bringing up the goal scoring more often than I've actually brought up.
Chat brought it up. Chat brought it up already. Chat brought it up before I even had the chance. Jeff, thanks for this. Much appreciated. We'll chat with you soon.
All right. We'll see what they look like against the not so big and bad Boston Bruins tomorrow. Bruins, by the way, and I know you'll spend more time on this tomorrow, but the Bruins are the lowest scoring team in the National Hockey League. That surprised me when I was looking at, obviously they fired a coach, but worst power play in the NHL, lowest scoring team in the National Hockey League. So we'll see if they can rise to the challenge, or if they're there for the taking and the Canucks can push the road 7 in a row. They've won 7 straight in a row, a chance to make it 8. If they get this thing to 8, that's 1 off the franchise record. So history in the making this week, perhaps.
That'd be wild if this team did that right now with the start that they've had. Jeff, thank you for this. Appreciate it.
Yeah, guys, thanks.
Not to mention the Boston PK problems all season long. Do you know where they rank off the top of your head?
I don't.
Should have kept Jeff on. I'm sure Jeff knows the answer, but hang on, I gotta look.
Which is strange, because usually for years, a massive part of the Bruins' success has been how dominant they are on special teams, not only the power play but the PK as well.
Okay, so Red Wings have the worst PK at 66.7% so far. Islanders, Oilers are there. Oh, Boston's more middle of the pack. More middle of the pack. Okay.
A lot of that probably too is that Swayman hasn't been very good. Hard to have a good PK when your goaltending's been subpar.
Yeah, Canucks are right there too. Canucks are 78.6%. Bruins are 77.9%. But we'll talk more about the Bruins tomorrow. Okay. Do you want to just get to anyone else?
Yeah, let's do it.
I got a few more things on the game, but I'll talk
Of course,
about them in anyone else, which is proudly presented by White Spot. At White Spot, they're all about enjoying great, comforting food and spending quality time with loved ones. With a new comfort menu, White Spot is focusing on cozy, satisfying flavors that are perfect to enjoy with family. Available now and developed by the White Spot culinary team, the comfort menu is filled with warm, indulgent dishes designed to make you feel right at home. The new menu features mouthwatering new additions like mini Yorkies, the braised beef burger, the home-style pot roast, and backed by popular demand, the iconic chicken pot pie. Bring your family to White Spot for a delicious meal, perfect for the season. Visit your local White Spot today. Okay, this one from Karn. Let's get to this. I know Harmon talked about this on the PDO cast, but should Hoglander get moved up the lineup to help with his confidence?
I thought that might have been the answer around when he started struggling, but I don't think that's the answer now. I mean, he is just completely out of sorts, and especially with Brock Boeser looking close to returning to the lineup and ending up back in the top 9 role, like, who are you going to take out of the mix, right? Sure, you could say Danton Heinen, but for the most part, I think Heinen's been fine. He's outperformed Hoglander this season.
Oh, yeah.
So I don't really see the opportunity, especially because last game he did get that look in the top 9, at least to start the game with Bluger and
played his way out of it.
Heinen. Yeah. So at this point, I think that would have been maybe the answer a couple games into, okay, Hoglander's on the 4th line, hasn't really found his game yet. And there were opportunities in late October / early November to promote him back into a top 9 role. Tocchet decided to go against it. And now it's too late to sort of look at that as the answer. Hoglander's going to have to figure it out, even if it is in a 4th line role.
David Jiricek got a lot of comments in the chat today. According to the Canucks subreddit, the Canucks have already traded for him. We don't think that's true, but David Jiricek, we've known for a while that he's on the outs in Columbus. Columbus is looking to move him. He's obviously available in a trade. Columbus is looking for, and this was reported, I think, by Friedman, Columbus is looking for a similar player in return. Knows Hoglander's a little bit older, not a similar player. Look, give me a guy who struggled in the AHL. Danila Klimovich, David Jiricek, 1-for-1.
No.
I was building to something.
No, Hoglander can't be the centerpiece.
No, that's what I said. Is they're kind of similar, but there's not. That can't be your trade. I said Danila Klimovich.
Yeah, I'm sure that'll get it.
Looking for another guy who similarly struggled in the AHL.
Yeah, both European, right? So that's Klimovich. And
it's really too bad Jarmo Kekalainen doesn't work there anymore, because that might have worked.
Yeah, no. Well, okay. So with Jiricek, first of all, I'm not a prospect expert. I make that very clear.
Okay, I am.
I don't have I haven't watched Jiricek enough in the AHL to really feel comfortable knowing, okay, is this a player that simply isn't going to fulfill his potential, or does he still have that really high-end top pair ceiling that everybody believed he had when the Blue Jackets drafted him at 6th overall in 2022? The big question I have is, well, what are you going to have to give up, right? Because if I'm Columbus, I'm not swinging that deal unless one of Lecker-Mackey or Willander is involved. And at that point, again, I'm no prospect expert, so even if you want to debate Willander versus Jiricek or Lecker-Mackey versus Jiricek, I'm not the guy to really break that down. I'd have to lean on the expertise of execs and scouts around the league to really come up with a strong take on that. But I think most Canucks fans would balk at the idea of giving up a Willander or a Lecker-Mackey as part of a trade for Jiricek.
And when it comes to Willander, I think you also have to look at what the Canucks think they have in Willander and sit down and say, okay, how much better is David Jiricek going to be than Willander? Because they already have David Jiricek at home. It's Tom Willander.
Yeah, and so, again, this is where it's so difficult, right? Because these guys are 19, 20 years old. Jiricek's a little bit further along. We've seen him at the pro level, but even Willander, you're trying to project what he is, watching him in the NCAA. So it's not easy at all to do. I think if you asked me maybe in the summer, I would have said, well, I didn't love Willander's draft plus 1 season over at BU, but he's having a strong sophomore campaign so far. Looks significantly improved. So,
and nobody had a worse draft plus one season than Jonathan Lecker-Mackey, who really bounced back.
yeah,
Right? Like, tells you some stuff, but it doesn't tell you everything that D+1 season.
So
We wrote about this at Canucks Army today, the David Jiricek stuff. So go read it. Front page of CanucksArmy.com. First thing you see when you click there. Sorry, you want to say something?
Yeah, I don't know if there's a trade to be made unless they're willing to dangle a Lecker-Mackey or a Hoglander. And again, I think most Canucks fans would balk at that idea.
Nick Pocek in the chat. Jiricek is 6'4". Hoglander is 5'9". Easiest trade Quads could ever make. Great first name too on Jiricek there. David.
Yeah,
You get
I
it?
figured that out. Not like you, I don't forget how to count.
What number did I struggle with? Was it 6?
6, yeah.
6. I always forget 6. It's a tough one to remember. Okay. Yeah, people are throwing in there. They said, oh, stuck in the AHL. Jet Wu, come on down. Michael Chow said that one in the chat. I like this. This is good. Okay. So again, Jiricek, I'll be curious what comes of this. Clearly, it's not going to work out in Columbus. Clearly, the player needs to change scenery. Organization wants to get him one as well.
Again, just look at the precedent, right? The couple most recent examples of a highly touted prospect that got moved. And again, different circumstances because the players in both circumstances were basically saying they didn't want to play for the team and demand it out essentially. But Cutter Gauthier, the Ducks had to give up Jamie Drysdale, who was also like a top 5, top 6 draft pick. And then in the case of McGroarty, the Jets got Jaeger back, who was basically drafted same thing, middle of the first round. So it's not going to be like let's build a package around Nils Hoglander that's going to get it done. Like Jiricek, even with his struggles, is still a blue chip prospect. The Blue Jackets are going to want a legit A-grade quality blue chip prospect coming back the other way.
And that's just not something that we're going to see, I don't think. Really, it's not.
From the Canucks, you mean?
Yeah. We're going to see it. Like, he is getting traded.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly. Okay, what else do we have here? Speaking of trades, this one from Elliot Friedman. He tweeted this out. We can pull it up. The Rangers are looking at moving Jacob Trouba and Chris Kreider. I know the Canucks narrowly lost to them, but the Rangers are on fire right now in the bad way. They lose to the first in the Pacific Calgary Flames. We'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
I have that locked and loaded. But this is the tweet. In the aftermath of their 6-2 loss in Edmonton on Saturday, the Rangers have made it very clear they are interested in making moves and shaking up their roster. Among the names indicated are Chris Kreider and Jacob Trouba, although other options will be considered. You know what this reads like to me, Harmon? This reads like year 2 or year 3 of the Tyler Myers deal when it was really bad. Like when it was like, oh my gosh, like, this is such a mistake. If the Canucks are like, all right, we're struggling. We're open to moving Tyler Myers. Go ahead, give us a call.
Yeah.
Give us a call.
I know you've been chomping at the bit.
Yeah. Hey, you know what? Erica Branson's also on the table. And we're 3 losses in a row. Lucas Pisa, nobody is safe. Derek Pouliot's on the move. Like, this is what this reads like to me. It's like, okay, great. The Rangers are willing to move Jacob Trouba. Who the hell's willing to acquire Jacob Trouba? Like, you said right before the show, you're like, Trouba's worse than Tyler Myers.
Literally at this point, anybody that watched him in the playoffs is massive
Absolutely washed.
liability, especially $8 million cap hit, and not just
for this year
season
and
next. I wouldn't touch that contract with a 10-foot pole. Now, Kreider's the interesting one. That's the one that caught me by surprise a little bit because he's been the ultimate Ranger. He's been legitimately very good on his current contract
at $6.5 million for this year and 2 additional seasons after that.
Yeah. He has struggled this season. He has 8 or 9 goals, but 0 assists. We know that, and him and Zibanejad as a line at 5-on-5 have really struggled. They haven't played at the top 6 caliber level. They haven't been driving play to that extent. So I guess it's understandable, especially because Kreider is 33 years old. So the Rangers may be thinking, okay, is this the start of his decline? And given their cap troubles, which we had Peter Baugh on the show recently, mentioned how they've got cap gymnastics that they need to work out, not just with the Shesterkin contract, but with Keandre Miller. Lafreniere's extension, which he signed earlier this season, is going to kick in next
Simplest
summer.
way to put it, Harm, is like the Rangers don't know what they are beyond this year.
Yeah. And they need cap room. And so as much as Kreider caught me off guard, the more that I'm thinking about it, I'm like, not just for this season, they're going to have to shake some of these contracts loose to ensure that they're just not stuck with these overpaid veterans when they've got younger, talented pieces that also need to be paid.
Hoglander, Vinny Desharnais for Chris Kreider. Get it done.
Don't get it done.
What do you mean don't get it done? Like, you mean it won't happen?
Well, not only that, but also, sorry, what was your proposal?
For Chris Kreider. Hoglander and Desharnais.
Sure, yeah, fine.
Woo! Harman's on board. This one from Nick Pocek in the chat. Rangers looking to move Trouba. In other news, I'd like to announce I'm looking at dating Sydney Sweeney. It's good. It's good. KP though, imagine a Kreider Miller Boeser line. Ooh, that would go hard. That would go extremely hard.
Yeah.
That's one. Yeah, that's a good top line. They can actually go get Chris Kreider.
They can't.
They can't.
It's not going to happen. They can't keep tying more money up into the wings when they need help on the blue line.
And Jacob Trouba's not an option. Okay. Anything else in the chat here? Let's see. We've got some ones from earlier in the show. The KP with his comment about, and this was before I even said it. He said Hoglander scored 24 goals, right, Harman? What else do we have? Do we have anything else that I'm missing? No, I think we got to everything. Someone brought up their experience meeting Brady Tkachuk. We won't read that one on air. Yeah, this Jiricek thing. People want to talk a lot about David Jiricek, but we don't have more to say on David Jiricek, I don't think. Did you have anything else that you wanted to get to? My final thing is Flames first in the Pacific.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
You don't sound
carried
enthused.
so hard by Dustin Wolf.
You don't sound enthused.
Fraud
Norm.
team that is being carried by
goalie's
elite
part of the team.
goaltender.
Goalie's
He
part
is,
of the team.
but come on.
Goalie's part of the team.
Fraud team that is just being,
and they're no longer first. Vegas is first now. But Calgary at 27 points. They were first in the Pacific until Vegas.
This isn't
their last game.
Ultimately at this point, this isn't even a bet on the Flames at this point. It's a bet on, can Dustin Wolf be Connor Hellebuck in year one?
It takes a team, man. It takes a team. It takes a team. Don't try to take away from what we've built.
I'll be so mad if you win just because Dustin Wolf turns into Connor Hellebuck in his rookie campaign.
Hey, he's part of the team, man.
I know.
And there's other guys. Kevin Rooney is a guy.
Remember when you couldn't even name half the Flames blue line?
What did I think? I thought I was like big defenseman Martin Pospisil.
See, that's what I'm saying. Like, it'd be one thing if you had laid out like, oh, I'm a big believer in Dustin Wolf, and that was your take.
Yeah,
that was just a pure like, oh, they're a hardworking team, and
I vibe with that. And it also, in fairness,
this wasn't
to me,
an educated take. This
no,
was just
it
was just throwing a dart on the board with vibes.
No, how many darts did I throw? Probably about 7. This was one of them. And when it happened, I said, Jonathan Huberdeau is better than what he was last year. I said you're going to get improved.
Barely been better this year.
I said it. I said you're going to get improved.
You didn't even mention Dustin Wolf.
I didn't mention Dustin Wolf once
at all.
No, I didn't. I was high on Dan Vladar. But I remember one direct
Huberdeau has 11 points in 21 games. He's been worse than last year.
So and look at the record. He's gonna get going. He's gonna get going. One thing I did say though, and I told you this, I said right off the top, I said like bottom 5 teams don't have Nazem Kadri on their team. Doesn't happen. Andrei Kuzmenko, he's going to put up points in the regular season. Their lineup just looked like it was too.
I mean, not necessarily like that. Okay. I get the point that you're trying to make, and I agree with, okay, like I thought they were going to be bottom feeders or not. But I mean, bottom 5 teams do have players of Kadri's caliber. Look at Bedard on Chicago.
Sure. But I mean, like throughout your lineup, they've got pieces, is what I'm saying. They've got guys that are going to score. Like, how many 20-goal scorers is Calgary going to finish with?
I don't know.
Definitely more than Chicago. Definitely more than, I'd say, every bottom 5 team, right?
Yeah.
And not to mention big defensemen like Martin Pospisil. No. But seriously, like Mackenzie Weegar, again, like Mackenzie Weegar's a good NHL defenseman, right? Kevin Ball's turned out to be really good for them. That's been a good addition to their team. Again, You are getting the goaltending, and you need the goaltending. We know that. But there's not much to suggest that this just isn't who Dustin Wolf is. Like, he was a top prospect.
For sure. I get what you're coming with, and I really believe in Wolf is like he's going to be
this level,
an upper echelon starter, but maintaining a 926 as a rookie 23-year-old goaltender, we've seen
that wins you.
You know how volatile.
Oh yeah,
that just doesn't just win you the Calder, which by the way, he'd be number 1 on my Calder ballot right now.
Yes, absolutely. Oh, same.
But that gets you in the Vezina conversation. And how many, like, when's the last time we saw a rookie goaltender in the Vezina trophy?
Yeah. So what does Wolf look like when he rounds out? And I think he's the real deal. What does he look like when he rounds out and all of a sudden he's at, I don't know, like a 912? Or
that's what I'm saying is like that might.
But I think they still get some results
enough to keep them competitive.
Yeah,
for sure. They're better than I thought. For sure. I still don't know about that.
Pirate Pack.
They just haven't faded as quickly as I thought they would.
And you know what? Like, let's get real for a second here, Harm. The fact we're talking about the 27-point Flames through 21 games as being top in the Pacific.
Number two.
Sorry. At the top of the Pacific, put Vegas 28. Same conversation. This is a turtle derby that we're looking at so far for the Pacific. It's wide open. And look, for the Canucks who've had their struggles to start the season, it's right there for the taking. And I mean, the Canucks by point percentage are third in the Pacific. But it's right there. Like, the Pacific is absolutely wide open right now. Top to bottom. Like, okay, maybe not bottom because Anaheim, San Jose, we know they're not going to do anything. But like even Seattle, who are like 10-10-1, they're right in the mix still for a playoff spot. Again, you look at the West though, okay. What divisions are the wildcard teams from in your mind? Is it Pacific or is it Central? Because I'm looking at it and I'm like, we had this conversation the other day, Harm. Like, we know Colorado is going to be competitive and they're going to make the playoffs, right? I
think it could be one each.
I think it probably could be one each. It's one each right now. Like, it's Edmonton, Vancouver are fighting for that second wildcard spot at the playoffs ended today.
And look at the top four Central teams: Winnipeg, Minnesota, Dallas, Colorado. I'm not banking on any of those teams falling off.
And Utah, for those that don't know, they're the Arizona Coyotes. So they're not making the playoffs. Is what I'm trying to say.
8-10-3. I'm disappointed with Connor Ingram. He's really regressed this year,
which
after
is
the
too bad.
Start they had. They have really slowed down offensively as well. Unfortunate to lose two of their best defensemen, Dursey and Marino, right at the start of the season. Like, that's a painful blow to lose essentially half of your top four.
When you lose half your top four, that's when you need your goalie to step up, and that's what Ingram hasn't done.
Yeah, and so between Utah, I think Nashville's done. They've just dug themselves.
Yeah, Nashville's too deep. Yeah, and I think in terms of our preseason conversations, like, I think we all had Nashville in a playoff spot.
Oh yeah, I did for sure.
Like, so it's going to be an interesting race. It's going to be an interesting race, and like, I hate to say it, Harm, you look at this picture today. Like, are Seattle, Anaheim, Utah, or St. Louis catching Calgary? Because if not, them Flames are knocking on the door.
Well, all they need is, like, it could be Vegas, LA, Edmonton, Vancouver coming out.
Yep.
Which is what it was last year of the Pacific, and then Calgary's not in a spot. That's still what I think is the most likely outcome.
It'd be great if the Oilers missed the playoffs and the Flames made it.
It's not happening.
So funny.
It's not happening.
But the Pirate Pack, Harm. The Pirate Pack. Go get yourself a Pirate
So, guys, I've got some info for you here.
Oh, let's go.
So you mentioned about goalies, rookie goalies, Calder, Vezinas. So in the chat, I saw somebody here. Just want to get the name. It was Syndicat, regular listener. Ed Belfour, 90-91 was the last rookie to win the Vezina. But in 2008-2009, a rookie won the Calder and was Vezina runner-up, and that was Steve Mason. Now, interestingly, he also finished fourth in Hart Trophy voting that year as a rookie goaltender. But when you look at his numbers, I mean, Luongo and Nick Backstrom, who finished right behind him in the Vezina, both had better save percentages, better records, and probably had better overall seasons. But Steve Mason on that pretty bad Blue Jackets team, not the worst Blue Jackets team we've ever seen, but certainly not a great Blue Jackets team.
He was a disappointment.
Was the Calder winner.
His career trajectory.
Be like if Dustin Wolf, if the Flames make the playoffs, I'm telling you now, I will have Dustin Wolf on my Hart ballot.
Hart might be going too far.
Most valuable to his team. If
But
the
you
Flames
forget how
make the
stacked the Hart.
playoffs-
Look at how stacked the Hart Trophy field was last year.
That's true.
Quinn Hughes was barely getting
Mhm.
like he got some fourth, fifth place votes,
Yeah.
but
First on mine.
Hart Trophy is
He wasn't actually first
too
on mine.
difficult.
Got to make sure that people know that's a joke. I had someone mention to me, they're like, are you really trusted to vote on the NHL awards? What I do on the ballot is different than what I say on the show. Like, I obviously take it very seriously and get very serious when I actually vote for the awards. But someone was like, what does your ballot look like? Is it just like Zadorov, Myers, Hughes, all for the Hart Trophy? No, I don't do that. I take it very seriously to vote on those awards. So, yeah, but I seriously, like, he will get Hart consideration. And I think I would.
We get Vezina. Let's pump the brakes on the Hart.
If they make the playoffs.
Yeah,
well, here's the thing.
So
Here's
that Columbus team made the playoffs. That was their first ever playoff appearance. They were the 7th seed in the West. They got swept in the first round, but Mason backstopped them to a playoff appearance.
Yeah.
Well, also, like, let me put it this way. Scott Wheeler and I've seen a lot of these, like, quarter of the season, like, Calder rankings or whatever. So I had Wolf number 1 on my list. I've barely seen any people have Dustin Wolf number 1, citing games played, which I understand he's going to need to get closer to like the 50 games played mark to warrant that type of consideration. But anyway, for Calder, I don't really buy that. But a lot of people will look at, like, I don't see Hart. Even if the Flames no, it's not happening. I'll bet you anything that he is not getting Hart Trophy votes.
If he gets one Hart Trophy vote, do I win?
You'll just vote for him. So I'm nah, you ain't getting me with that loophole.
We shouldn't even joke about this. We're not. No, not happening. No.
Yeah, I feel like that's actually.
I feel like that's a bit of
you'd
a
actually
conflict
get
of interest.
banned.
Yes. Yeah, you would.
Even if it
Yeah.
it was an unofficial bet.
Yeah, you can't do that.
Like, even just for making the bet, not even
Yeah.
for actually voting.
I'm not.
Can you imagine getting banned from?
That's happened.
The voting because you bet like a pirate pack.
Yeah, that's never happened.
Like,
That would be a first. Oh, that's good. Okay. Anything else you wanted to get to today?
Nope.
All right. Let's get to our Bet 365 bet of the day, which, folks, if you've looked at the NHL slate, you know what I'm picking. The Calgary Flames are in Ottawa to take on the fraudulent crybaby Senators, and they are somehow the underdogs at plus 135. Some of the most lopsided odds you can find right now on Bet365. The Senators are the home favorite at minus 160 because I'm sure everybody's expecting, they're going to bounce back. But no, just all you got to do, get under the captain's skin by, sneezing in his vicinity, and all of a sudden he's going to lose his mind and stop playing hockey. So plus 135, we're taking the Flames. That was our bet of the day, brought to you by Bet365, a proud partner of Canucks Conversation. Open an account with Bet365 today and bet on a huge range of markets. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Be sure to use code NATION when you sign up for an account. You like that pick?
Smart pick.
Underdogs. Keep counting us out. Sea of red, baby. Sea of red. All right. We'll close it out there. For my co-host, Harman Dialer, and technical producer, Jacob Zara, my name is David Quadrelli. Thanks so much for listening to the episode of Canucks Conversation. Canucks Conversation is live Monday through Friday, every weekday at 2 p.m. over on the Canucks Army YouTube channel. Make sure you like, subscribe, and interact in the YouTube live chat every day with us, folks.